So this
Oh,
is
look, this is showing your age.
yes. Well, this is a movie that I talked about before. This was a TV movie of the week, Death of the Salesman. This was 1985. So what's that? That's 35 years ago. Oh my God. So that's Dustin, John Malkovich, and Stephen Lang. And for me, again, because I didn't really know anybody in the business. For me, this was like at the time a great still for me because it's so much going on, and for me, this is what a still photograph is.
Yeah, it's I'm seeing the theme time and time again with you. It's really about you have this incredible knack of being able to pick the moment and capture that moment. That this scene could have been 3 or 4 minutes, but you're telling it in
Right,
an 80th of a second. It's
right. Well, like you, because I listened to your first interview with Hopper. You watch a rehearsal, you watch the blocking, you watch a rehearsal, and you know what's the moment that's going to work for that scene, and that's the moment you're concentrating on. You might be shooting a little bit of the other stuff, but that's the moment, so you know where to be, and you know where they're going to be, and you know what lens to use. Um, and that for me is really key of getting great images is working the rehearsals. I mean, today they don't do rehearsals so much as they used to. In the old days, they used to do 3, 4 rehearsals. Um, so that's really important is watching rehearsals, watching the blocking.
yeah, and then prioritizing, which image
Right.
to go for. Like I follow. I throw my camera around like it's a cine camera, but I'll pick exactly what you're saying that moment, and then I'll go for that until I get it, and then I'll go down the level of the not so
Right.
important images. But then then sometimes you find that those ones that you put at the bottom of the list were the best. It's like, oh
Right.
yeah,
That's
lucky I
true.
got that.
But
But
also,
yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I didn't realize that Death of a Salesman was a movie of the week because it's an incredibly famous production.
Right.
And
It was done, I think, in the 40s or 50s with Lee J. Cobb, and then CBS did it. This was 1985. Um, yeah, what was really cool is that Arthur Miller was on set a lot, so that was pretty
oh
cool.
wow, oh that's a treat, isn't it? When you're on a film set and some of these legends are there, and um, there's a buzz that goes around the film set, and everyone's because we're all into it,
Right.
and it's just so exciting sometimes. Well, most of the time, but it's a really cool feeling when you've got those old legends on set and you
Right.
just want to watch them.
That's very true. And
Oh,
I want to say that in these days, I was shooting, it was film. We had to shoot both black and white and color. So you shot black and white. You had one camera black and white and one camera, excuse me, with chromes, which were pretty limiting in those days. When I first started, the fastest 35 millimeter tungsten chrome film was 160. I mean,
yeah.
160 now. And then eventually it came out with 320, and you could push it to stop, but after that, it's like golf ball size grain. And
Yeah, the old EPJ 320. I
right,
used to push it a stop and a quarter, I think, and and then I'd expose it. I'd expose it for a stop, and then but push it a stop and a quarter. And
right,
yeah, yeah. And but I never got that sometimes, especially when it was actually a pretty simple. It was pretty simple to convert the color to black and white. Anyway, I never I used to do my head in 60/40, and it would be like up to us to choose which was going to be the best,
right.
almost, because the mono, although it looks beautiful, the black and whites, it was always kind of secondary in my mind. I don't know if it was for you, but
Not when I first started, not really, because if you went to when I first started, I'm older than you, Jason. So when I first started, they used to, if you went to a movie theater, there were 8 by 10 still photographs on the exterior of the movie theater, and they were always black and white. So, and in those days, newspapers were only black and white. So, yeah, I would say the decision was left up to us, and you're probably right. I probably shot 60% 60% color and 40% black and white. Um, I don't know. And then that went away. And then eventually the studios let us shoot color negative. Right before digital, we were just shooting color negative film mostly. And they were making the conversions from that.
Haven't our outlets exploded over? I mean, I started my photography career in '81 working for newspapers, so we've got a similar lifespan. Although I didn't start in the film industry
Right.
for 10 years later, so you've got 10 years up on me there, and it's really amazing to think of where our images were seen in the old days. It's like I'd have photo editors send me, like, mail me the LA Times with a photograph in it and stuff like that. And now it's a dream for us.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. But, I'm only sorry that, especially in a movie like Goodfellas, that I don't have access to thousands of images that I shot. I only have access to whatever I might have printed at the time. And I know there was so many great shots that, I'm sure they archived it, but I just don't have access to it. So that's the unfortunate part of that whole aspect. All these films that we worked on where we shot film, we don't have access to a lot of those images.
Well, it's the archival thing is a bit of a in some ways, a bit of a furphy. I was talking to someone the other day who was trying to chase some images of mine. I'm not going to say what film it was or what studio, but it's a big film, a big franchise, and they can't find the images
Right.
at all. And I do have some transparencies and stuff like that, which I've kept over the years. So interesting that maybe I've got the only originals. I mean, they're in storage, but
Right.
this is a massive film, and I cannot believe that they have not been digitized. To tell you the truth, it really kind of blows me away and disappoints me too.
Yes, it's definitely disappointing. Again, so this is Goodfellas, and which is I had worked with Marty before, also in 1985 on a movie called After Hours. Um, and then when Goodfellas came around, they hired me to do this. So it was a tough movie, but it was fun. That's a world that I really like. It's a New York world. It's fun. Good.
And it's, this is early days too for you, and your style is apparent from the beginning of that. You really wanted to pull up that moment and show people a frame which they're never going to see anywhere else.
Right. Well, this is 1989, and this movie probably, as you know, this movie more than any other movie has gotten me more work than anything else. I'm sure for you it might have been The Matrix. I don't know. Um, so when in the old days, you used to sometimes go for an interview with a director, and say you worked on no, you worked on Goodfellas, and some now they're young and they go, you worked on Goodfellas. That was in sixth grade.
It's true though. We all of us photographers seem to be defined by a production, and it's kind of, we have a defining production that then we grow from that. It's kind of, you can spend 5-10 years in the industry and not have that, and then you get it, and then that is where you continue to go from that point on in your career. And so many young photographers are looking for a shortcut, and there is no shortcuts. I mean, like, you'd been in the industry for 8 or 9 years before this production came up. Same with Matrix for me. I'd been around for quite some time before that came up. And everyone seems to think that you can just work on a couple of films and you're going to make it. You've got to sweat.
Yeah, you do. You do. And then if you get that break where you happen to work on some movie that, for whatever reason is huge, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You got to do a good job. So I also wanted to say that I haven't said is early in my career, I met a German cinematographer named Michael Bauhaus, who was Fassbinder's cinematographer in Germany. And I met him on a John Sayles movie called Baby It's You. I think it might have been his first American movie. and we became friends. And he became Marty Scorsese's DP for many many years, and he's the one who introduced me to Marty, and that's how I got After Hours, which led to this movie. So jobs come in all sorts of strange ways, man.
Oh man, to work with Scorsese, oh my gosh, that's just like that's that's the photographer's starting out now dream as well. You know, I mean that's lasted 30 years. It's like it's insane. Hey, what?
In those days, Marty was accessible. My understanding is not as accessible today. He was accessible and he was fun, and he worked long hours, but he's a really interesting filmmaker. I don't know if he still works this way, but when he would call cut, no one is allowed to talk until he goes over to his actors and gives them notes, and then people can talk and tell him whatever. That's the first time I saw that, and it was pretty interesting. Um,
I love a true filmmaker, and I mean, you've worked with some greats, and
right.
it brings out your own skill too. If you're watching other people the way they work, and just as pure professionals, it makes you think about the way you capture images on a film set as well.
I also wanted to say that when I first started, and like a dinosaur, there was no video playback, and there was no video assist, right? So around the camera, it was usually only one camera unless you were doing steady cam or it was a big stunt or whatever. So at the camera, you had the camera operator, you had the DP, you had the director, and you had the focus puller, and you had the script person, and you had the still photographer. So you had six people around one camera.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's short on real estate.
Yes, that is. But and when you see a director at a camera watching an actor work, it's different than when he's 50 yards away looking at a monitor. So
Yeah, yeah. I remember the old clamshells
right, that's
and
right.
yeah, crazy days. Oh, see, I mean, this is just stellar.
Right. So again, here's where what we were talking about picking out the moment. Right. This is Bob. He's sitting. He's at a bar, and actually, most of the scene he's turned to his right, where he's in profile, and there's a moment where he turns to talk to somebody just for a split second. So that's the moment I'm going for, and there it is.
Right. So it's literally just bang,
Wow.
bang, and you're over. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah, it's
this is probably again with a 105, 105 or 130. I love those lenses for the tight shots, the 105 or the 135.
what are you shooting now?
I'm shooting Fuji's.
Are you?
Yeah, well, for let me say this. For Creed, all the boxing stuff, I shot my Nikons, right? I didn't have to be blimp. I didn't have to be blimped. Um, and for action, there just is no compar. There was no comparison, you know.
Yeah.
But for mirrorless, I went at the time. It was either Fuji or Sony. Uh, I had a conversation with David James. He was using Fuji's, and Frank Massey was using Fuji's, and they kind of sold me on it. And I got to say, the lenses are just pretty incredible, and that's really what sold me on it. And at that time, Sony. Um, I mean, maybe they're a little more advanced now, but at that time, I felt Fuji was just a better deal for me.
Yeah. Well, they're your Nikons there, right? With a 70
Yeah,
to 200 and a
yeah,
24 to 70. Is
yeah.
that D4 or D5s?
That's that would be a D4.
D4, right?
Yeah.
And I can see a little blimp ring there as well.
Yeah,
That's
for the Aquatex. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great shot actually. I love it, and that again shows the trust that you get from the guys for them to let you be on the back of the camera car.
Yeah. What I was doing was,
Techno or just a dolly?
no, there's some sort of remote on it. I don't remember what. It's just a
Yeah, it
joke.
looks like a Libra. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Libra head. So what would happen was the boom guy would I would alternate takes with the boom guy. He'd let me on, I'd get off. When the take was done, he'd get on, and I'd get back on. Actually, this was another Will Smith movie.
Oh, I love that shot. It's one of my favorite photographer shots of all time. Actually, it's really cool. Hey, we're going to get. We've got some photos of more photos of your work. Obviously, that's with the Aquatech. That's
Yes,
I think that's like series one
probably.
with the clear.
Yes,
It was yeah 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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That was, when you were the first one who kind of had the
Mm.
architect. So when they came out, it was, although I love my Jacobsons, this was lighter, it was more ergonomic, it just felt better in the hand. But yeah,
Yeah. No,
I gotta tell you, I love working without blimps, man.
oh, hey, it's like
It's,
I'm on the Z6s now, and it's you know it's 98% of my work. I pull the blimps out for heavy action, and that's it. And Nikon, I know that a lot of you guys work different systems, but the Nikon has just done a firmware 3 update, and it's it's really good. It's not There's no camera out there that's the holy grail from anyone yet, but oh, damn, I hope it
that
comes
is
soon.
true. That is true. So well, you're a Nikon ambassador, so you'll be getting a D6, I imagine, right?
Yep, yep. D6, and I'm waiting for my 70 to 200S for my gear.
Right,
But I have a feeling that D6 may well be the last DSLR that I own, and
right.
I think it'll be mirrorless all the way through from there.
Yeah,
But
I have to say the mirrorless again. I love the Fuji lenses, and the camera itself has some limitations, but there are shots that you can do with the mirrorless because of the flip, because it's so small and the screen flips. There's shots you could do that you really couldn't do with a camera and a blimp. And then, so it's opened up other avenues for most stuff.
I agree, and two things. I mean, the main one, which is what you were talking about then, you can shove a camera into spots where you can't get your big old head. But the other thing too is something about being able to look at this. I use the EVF most of the time, but to look at the screen sometimes during a sensitive scene, it takes me away from the feeling like I'm a distraction a little bit. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I have to say, when I first used the mirrorless camera, I felt so vulnerable, so exposed. You're not hiding behind this black lunchbox, and it felt like a toy in my hand. And in fact, people on the set were sort of laughing at me. Um, so I don't know if I feel like you about that. It takes me out of it. It's just different, but now I'm so used to it. I prefer actually. I shoot through the viewfinder, but sometimes I'll shoot use the screen to shoot.
At the beginning, I felt like a real amateur. I was almost embarrassed to use it
Yes,
because it's
exactly.
like this is not what a still photographer uses
Right.
on set.
It's
And
true.
then and then I hold on, I've got like a bundle of cameras here. But then like at the end of a scene, I'd like go through looking through the EVF and I'd do a little bit of chimping through there, or I'd change a setting,
Right.
and people would be like, "What are you photographing?" And it looked like I've been photographing someone's butt the whole time. It's like, and so I had to stop it. I'm like putting it up in the air or whatever, and it's like it's pretty funny. But yeah, the just to have control over your camera and be the boss again, it's great, isn't it?
That is really true. I mean, the great thing about the Fuji's, I don't know about the Nikon, is when I change the aperture, I see it right there.
Yep.
Is that true of the
Yeah,
Nikon?
yeah, it's live exposure, and we've never had that before.
So, yeah, never had that. So that's great. I really enjoy that. I'm happy with the mirrorless. The banding issue, of course, is a problem, but I use a Fuji. It's called the XH1, which is a little larger than their XT series. It feels more meaty. It feels more like a camera and less like a toy. And
Hmm.
when you're using a mechanical shutter, I swear, Jason, it's whisper quiet. It's as quiet as a Leica. So I can actually, if I'm banding, unless it's a really quiet dialogue scene, I can just shoot a mechanical shutter. Yeah.
Now that's interesting, and I'd forgotten about that because I've been doing the same thing with my Nikons. It's like it's a different decibel or something that just doesn't quite. It doesn't. It's like it doesn't get in the way of the soundtrack or people's hearing for some reason. There is. It's just. It's not even that it's a softer tone. It's just like it slips through the cracks, kind of a noise, isn't it?
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Well, hey, no, I'm with you. It's like mechanical shutter all
That's
the way. Hey,
great.
is this a wide lux shot or is it just cropped?
A friend of mine who's a DP took this, Patrick Capone. I don't know. It might be an X-Pan shot. I don't know.
Wow,
Yeah,
love it. This is so cool.
this is actually
Yeah,
Kramer Morgenthau, who was the DP. This is that movie, The Many Saints of Newark. He took this. It's a pretty cool shot.
it really is. It's funny that we most of the shots that we all show of ourselves are, they're never like this. It's way in the background in a reflection or up a
True.
tree or something like that. It's kind of. I was talking to Helen Sloan about it the other day about hiding behind the camera because I definitely hide behind my camera.
Yeah.
There you go. I love this shot of you, handsome devil.
It's me hiding behind my hat.
Hey, now this brings us into SMPSP territory,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of things. I know that you got to get going, so I'm not going to keep you too long. But I'd love to hear two things before we wrap it up. Number one is about the Society of Motion Picture Still Photographers with our exhibitions, and there's a team of you guys that are in charge of that, which is just fantastic. And also, while we're talking through that, there's everyone. The question that we always get is, how do I get in the film industry? If you can just throw a little bit of your own advice in there. I always tell people that there's no shortcuts. I'm not going to I'm not going to open my contacts list for you, but we're there to mentor photographers and help them with this to develop their own style. And
So
yeah, Barry.
I'll tackle the last part first, which is
Okay.
how do you get into the film business? And I'm assuming you're talking about people who are photographers who want to do what we do.
Yeah.
I always say to people, first I ask them where they live, because if they live in some location where there's no movie making, it's hard to tell them what to do. But if you're in a place where people are making movies, whether they're student movies or really low budget or no budget movies, and you have some sort of access to those people, offer your services for free. Um, if you can afford to do that. And you'll start to get some understanding of the protocol of how to work a set. And B, you'll meet people. And it's all about networking. Networking is really important in the film business, especially initially. Also, if you've never shot stills, you should go to smpsp.org and you can see some of the finest stills taken today and yesterday and get an understanding of what we do, of what you should try to do, which is you want to be a visual storyteller. You want to tell you want to capture the moment of the scene that speaks about the scene or speaks about the whole movie. So my advice is take a look at our website and look at stills, study stills, and then somehow figure out how to get on a film set. And you never know.
Yeah, you got to keep plugging it away at
Yes,
that part of it's. It'll happen though.
yes. If you have
Always.
patience, if you have
Yeah, you
patience and luck. I mean, luck is definitely involved. And if you have talent, you'll survive.
Yep.
You'll go far. And if you have luck, it will open a door, or a door will open for you. And you gotta have patience. There's lots of times, even after I started my career, where I was like, man, when am I going to get a job? So,
Well, that's so true. I mean, timing and patience is key to what we do, not only in getting a job, but being on a film set
right.
and capturing those moments is it doesn't stop, does it? It's all timing and patience and just plugging
Really,
away at it.
it's really true. But relationships with people, as you know, networking, but the relationships you form with people will carry your career. You
Yeah, true. So this is
know.
from Photoville, right?
Yeah, this is Photoville, New York. There's a Photoville, LA, and there's a Photoville, New York. And what it is it's in New York. I don't remember. I think there was about 50 or 60 shipping containers, and they choose who they're gonna allow to show. Different people show in different containers. This was our container in New York, SMPSP container. And I think I can't remember, but I think something like 250,000 people visited Photoville this
What?
past fall. 250,000 people, and I have to say, because I was there most days, um, our shipping container was the most popular. It really was,
That
and
is so cool.
that's because everybody knows movies, everybody knows who the stars are, and yeah, it was great. It was really a great experience. It really was. It was, an honor just to be amongst all these great photographs. To share wall space with all these great photographers. Yeah,
And they're historical right through to modern
that's correct.
images too, which is
Yeah.
really cool. I think that we've been invited to the next one in LA.
I think Murray was talking about that. Yeah, it sounds like I actually I think I got us a show at the Museum of Moving Image in Queens, which is attached to Kaufman Astoria Studios.
And here's the team. Come on, introduce us all.
Yeah, so as you look at the photograph on the left, extreme left, is Jojo Wilden. There's Mary Weissmiller, Nicola Good, myself, and Nicole Polak.
That's so
There's
cool.
one of your photographs is on the upper left from,
Oh, it is too from Mad Max.
yes.
Was anyone interested in that? You can lie.
No, actually, a friend of yours, I told you that a friend of yours stopped by, DP, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, that was crazy. And it's like he sent me photos actually from here.
yeah.
So who's on the exhibition team?
Well, it's really Mary and Nicola, but since I got us this museum, I'm kind of in charge of of the museum in Queens. But it's really Mary Weissmiller and Nicola Good. They're really the exhibition team.
Yeah, Mary and Nicole, I tell you, they work so hard at all this, and all of you did it in New York, but hats off.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. It was it was unbelievable to see so many people smile, recognize actors or recognize movies, and it was really great. It really was. It's a great venue. It really is. It's under the Brooklyn Bridge. It's right by the East River. Beautiful.
Oh, is it on the island side or on
No, it's on
Brooklyn
the
side?
Brooklyn side.
Oh, so it's not far from my
It's right under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Is that excuse my ignorance and stupidity? Is that what they call the meat packers or something?
No,
Is that
no,
is that a different area?
that's called Dumbo. It's in Dumbo, which means down under the Manhattan Bridge.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot of people having. It's
Yeah,
so cool for us to be able to share our images.
yeah.
I love that.
Actually, that's my daughter and my granddaughter.
Oh, I'm looking at Poppy's photo.
Right.
That looks beautiful as a print.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I might have to hit you up for one of them one day. A signed one. We'll talk later.
All right,
I'll
brother.
take you some whiskey or something.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, people from that part of Brooklyn is a real tourist trap. So there were people from all over the world, all types of people, kids, and from everywhere. It was just, and you can see if you can see this photograph well, they're all looking and talking, and it's really our booth was the winner, man.
That's so cool. Well, it's really like it's like when you go into an art gallery. I mean, the intent looks on these people's faces, like studying the image, like
Right.
like studying a grandmaster. That's a real tribute, actually. And I haven't had the opportunity to look at these images so closely, and it's almost more is said about the audience than the images in some ways. Well, actually, they go together perfectly in harmony.
Yeah, it was great. It was really a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's so cool,
Cool.
man. I have had the best day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Oh, it's and thank you for always being my conscience and keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Trying, man. Trying.
Yeah, I know, right? I get a bit out of control, but hey, thank you so much. I know everyone out there has just loved hearing your stories, and anything you'd like to sign off on?
No, I just thanks for doing this. I think I hope people enjoy this and fun. I'm a firm believer in paying it forward. So, you know, like you, I get tons of emails and phone calls from people who, how do I get into the business? How do I do this? And I answer everyone that ever contacts me. It may take me a week, but I answer everyone because they know how that feels. They know how that is.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm gonna chuck you in the green room and sign off. Just hang around for a bit so we can have a chat. Is that cool?
No problem.
Thanks, buddy boy.
Take care.
You too. So, team, that was Barry Wetcher. Oh my gosh, one of my heroes in the industry, and I'd never heard any of those stories before, to tell you the truth. And this is one of the things that I'm getting out of it, is to hear from the photographers themselves what went into making their images, and just there's so much more than pressing the button. It's incredible. And hey, I hope you enjoyed it. Barry's going to be back for 5 Photo Folio. Great advice, great images, and I think you're starting to see a solid theme that we all have a tendency to think along similar lines. So anyway, there you go. Until next time, if you can subscribe, press the little bell so that you get notified of next episodes. And this is going to be a two-parter as well. I can't keep them down. Sorry. I'm just too interested in listening to the stories. All right. Take care.